Well, today we're going to do something a bit different, although we've sort of done it before. We're basically going to have a look at, because my rulebook finally came for All Quiet on the Martian front, and I have been looking forward to this for quite a while, since I sort of first saw it. And I haven't played the game yet, because I don't have the models, or I know anyone that's got the models so I can play a game with them. But I have read through the rules, and I have to say, the rules are pretty damn good. And one thing I've said to several people about when discussing the book, they've got to get the right amount of sort of almost the mismatch there would be between a second sort of wave of Martian invaders and a sort of more advanced human race now using potential Martian technology. And I think that this has done it very well, and we'll get to that. But first, and this is what I often love about some of these rulebooks, is the fluff. I mean, some of the artwork in here is absolutely awesome. And that's literally the first piece you get open to. And like I say, some of the artwork, and not only the fluff pieces in here, are really good as well. So it starts off with the world at war, and basically it sets out what has happened since the first Martian invasion. And we get up to the second. Now, the second Martian invasion, what essentially happened was that the Martians have landed, again, obviously, and instead of landing sort of what they did in the first one, landing directly in the populated areas, they've landed sort of in the wastelands, almost. And basically what they've done is they've landed in sort of the Rockies in America, the Himalayas, and in Australia. And eventually what they've done is the Martians have completely taken over Australia. There's fighting going on in China from the Himalayas and in India. Europe, from what I can tell, actually has been untouched. In the Middle East, there's fighting going on in the Middle East as well, because the Martians have a strong presence there. South America has, I believe there's pockets of resistance. I don't know, it doesn't discuss what happened in South America that much, but in North America, a vast quantities of America basically been taken over. I don't know if you can see it, but that is basically the North American theatre of war, where, at least in this book, most of the battles take place. So the red is obviously the Martian territory. So, as you can see, they've taken over quite a lot. And I have to say, I do absolutely love this. Again, the fluff is awesome. I mean, look, you've got that as well, which is like a typical sort of World War One war poster. And then you've got like the timelines here, of course, in the Martian War. You've also got, as you can see, there's throughout the book there are like these little newspaper clippings of like giving you background on the information and things that's basically going on in the world. And I have to say, that is so good. They've really built what I can say is essentially a really good world. Now, for ages and ages and ages, I've been waiting for not only just a film, but a book that I haven't seen yet. I think there are a couple out there that basically sort of capture a second Martian invasion. And like I say, I think the fluff they've built here and the world that they've created, I think, does that amazingly well. Now, the sort of period it's set is 1914, and one of the things that I find quite interesting is, well, it makes sense that that's the good thing about building good fluff, makes sense. And one of the things that they've done or what you'll notice is, they're still using steam engines. Now at that point, obviously in the real world 1914, we'd moved on since then. We were now using you know, kerosene based engines. But what do the Martian have? Heat rays. So obviously you introduce a heat ray to, you know, a vehicle using that type of engine. Boom. So obviously it makes sense to use steam engines, and as such the steam engines themselves that they're using are a bit more advanced than they had been, because at that time, rather than continuing obviously to advance the steam engines, we basically swapped them out for kerosene engines, or what became the combustion engines eventually. But like I say, there's lots of stuff going on here. Oh yeah, Teddy Roosevelt is the leader of current Martian wartime America, which is awesome. And anyway, now we'll get on to sort of the game rules. So what are the basic game rules? Well, things are dropped up into different types. Infantry, artillery, vehicles / tanks are the same. Machines, tripods, and then exceptional vehicles. The exceptional vehicles, we'll get to those because we have to talk about those separately, because what they've got coming for these is going to be awesome. So what do you need to basically play the game? All you need are D10s, or for those who don't know, 10-sided die. And then obviously you need the models. And this is what I want to talk about, how they've pitched it exactly. Because what they've done is they've done anything that would be classed as a tripod has a damage table. And basically, as a human, if you can reduce a tripod's armour to 0, which you can do through damaging it and rolling on the damage table, eventually it will blow up. However, a lot of your vehicles and men do not have that. Basically, if they take a hit, they're gone. And then this can have effects on your morale, which can cause units to retreat. And one of the things I do like is that the unit keeps on retreating unless there's a commander present, which can make them rally again. Or, once they've gone off the table, you can do another morale check, and if they succeed it, they can come back the next turn as reinforcements. Which is brilliant, because normally in any other game where a routing unit leaves the table, it's gone. It's, you know, it's considered a casualty. And then the morale checks themselves, basically you need to roll a 5 or higher. So basically you've got a pretty good 50-50 chance of your guys returning to the table, if not succeeding their initial morale check anyway. The other thing that there is again, there are different tanks. And the different tanks will have different guns, and the different guns will allow them to do more penetrating hits. Again, there are tanks that have, you know, not only turrets but spontoons, meaning that they can have 3 shots. So basically, if you had a unit of, I believe it's 3 Mark III tanks, you can shoot 9 shots, potentially at a tripod. So there's a lot of potential damage you can do to a tripod. And then the tripods themselves, you've got the heat rays, medium heat rays, and heavy heat rays. And basically, they're all basically different ranges, different powers. And then the heat rays have 2 sort of settings, you could say. Focus beam, which is 1 unit, which does the most damage. Or you have the sweep, and the sweep does less damage, but obviously you're hitting more in that arc. And I think the bigger the heat ray, the bigger the arc becomes as well. So there's that. The other thing that I do like is the Americans have a special unit built into their infantry called the Forlorn Hope. Now the Forlorn Hope, I would show you this picture but it's too small, but basically they remain hidden in your infantry, and the model for them is basically 3 guys climbing up a rope, and basically you attach this to the tripods, and from what I've seen from Alien Dungeon, the tripods are all specially made so that you can attach these guys basically climbing up their ladders on, and basically what their job is to climb up the tripod and basically plant explosive on the main body, and that's awesome. But like I say, they've got lots of different stuff, and not only that, but so far, currently, in terms of sort of armies, there's the US, you obviously got the Martians, and then at the moment, I think it's the end of this month, they're releasing the British Expeditionary Force. And there is a lot of difference between the Americans and the British, because in the British in this one, because they were of the end of the first Martian invasion, they were able to salvage more intact technology. Britain has become the most sort of technologically advanced nation on the planet at the moment. Well, when you know, next to the rest of the nations, not compared to the Martians, but they have a lot of, again, themselves interesting stuff to potentially play with. And one thing I want to show is what these exceptional units are, because my god, when they release these are going to be huge. They're almost like an army unto themselves. Now there's no physical one exist at the moment, so this is just a drawing of one. But again, if you can see that, that's going to be huge. And then this thing is, like I say, it's a land ironclad. And this thing has got one 12-inch gun, a 7-inch gun, 4 5-inch guns, 4 4-inch guns, and 8 machine guns. So yeah, these things are going to be absolute beasts. Of course they cost 750 points, which is a heck of a lot, and you've got to think a standard Martian assault tripod, I believe, is worth 200, 300 points. But you basically get the idea because of how thick the armour of these things is. So hopefully I've given a sort of a good potential review of it. Oh, and you know, yeah, the Martians are getting their own version called the Overseer Tripod, which is their own version of the land ironclad. But so far at the moment, you've got your 3 forces. You've got your 2 human factions, the BEF, the US, and then you've got your Martians. But coming up, right at the back of the book, of things to come, they've already said that the next book is called The Guns of Venus, which should be an indication of what alien faction they're introducing next. Yes, the Venusians. And by the looks of it, the Venusians are going to be, I want to say, think the Martians from John Carter. That's the best way to describe them. And then there's going to be more Earth forces. For what we can see here in the end of the book, they've already said they're going to get Prussian and French armies on the go. And there's probably, given the book, what's going on in the book, there's probably going to be Japanese and probably Russians released further down the line. So, all in all, really good game, really good fluff, really well done, put together book. The rules and mechanics, from what I've read, are pretty solid. I haven't played the game yet, but when I do play the game, I will come back and say what I think to it then properly. But so far, from what I've read, I'm probably going to end up getting the starter kit. So yeah, go check it out. All Quiet on the Martian front. It's quite awesome, particularly if you're a War of the Worlds fan.